Alright, good morning everybody. We are here with break 414. We have a 26 League Heroes case, a 26 League Heroes hobby box, and 4 26 League Heroes starter packs. Our team list. Sorry, I was just double checking that I had the right one on the video. And our team list is Broncos, Greg King, Raiders, Stephen Murray, Bulldogs, Nick Duckitt, Sharks, Anthony Ryan, Dolphins, David Wyatt, Titans, Rod Staples, Manly, Lee Roberts, Storm, Johnny D, Knights, Greg King, Cowboys, Johnny D, Eels, Daryl, Barton, Panthers, Matthew Dallas, Rabbitohs, Eddie Sheridan, Dragons, Karen Adnum, Roosters, Dean Mich, Warriors, Kevin Follas, and Tigers, Jack. Alright guys, let's flick our screens over. There we are. Good morning. Alright, as normal, 2 seconds. The one thing I'm not used to having is the scissors. They're just here, so we're good to go. Alright. 4 packs of our starters. So we'll open all 4 packs. Let me bring the chat up. Here we are. Give it a refresh, bring up the team list, and we're good to go. Alright, last one. Alright. We have our 4. Get them open. I'm not gonna lie, this does scare the hell out of me cutting these packets with scissors. Alright, there we go. One wrong slip. I'm actually doing them all at once. G'day Jeff, welcome mate. Yes, we made it. Tom Starling for the Raiders to start us off. Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Alright, that's our 4 bonus packs out of the starters. Let's get these packets open and we'll get stuck into the case. Game breakers, Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Luminous Terrell May for the Tigers. Morning Jared, how are you this morning? I was waiting for it. Yeah. Disappointed. League heads, Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. League heads, Mawaki Fodawaika for the Titans. luminous Tiana Penatani grey for the Sharks. See, if it was a better game and I was enjoying it more, I might have stayed longer and packed more orders. But because of the score, I had no interest and left at halftime. Cane Breakers, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Luminous KO Weeks for the Raiders. League Heads, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Beau Fermor, Luminous for the Titans. Bang, Matty Burton for the Bulldogs. Did you get these through a distributor? I was wondering where box costs. We are a distributor. Check. Well, Select are the distributor. That's the way it is now. And yeah, so we have them available on the website as well as singles, all sorts of deals. Stefano Utakamanu, Luminous for Storm. Game Breakers, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous Sean Russell for the Eels. Premiership Predictor.
Thank you very much. I've got
Luminous Zali Hopkins for the Dragons. League Heads, Keon Kolomatengi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Three packets left for the starter packs. League Heads, Harry Grant for the Storm. Luminous Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous James Tedesco for the Roosters. Alright, last pack before we get stuck into the case. Bang, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous Jermaine McEwen for the Knights. Not bad for 4 starter packs, hitting a predictor. Alright, let's move Hobby out of the way. We'll do that at the end. Move that out of the way. How's everyone's chase going? Or are you still waiting for stock? I know a lot of people that were waiting have now started to receive it. I also know there is a couple that are still waiting. Alright, Now they're all out, we can get stuck in. Box number 1 from our case. Let's go. Game breakers, Alex Seyfarth for the Tigers. Luminous Jai Grey for the Rabbitohs. Had someone reach out. How many pages of sleeves do select binders have? Just enough for the base cards set pretty much, so it depends on what you wanted to do. It does tell you in the listing how many pages and how many cards it fits if you check out the website, as well as both checklists being available for download on our checklist page. League heads, Leha Wyatt for Manly, Luminous Reed Marnie for Cowboys. You have 2 albums. You have the Luminous album and you have the League Heroes album, which is green, and the Luminous is white. Game breakers, Olivia Koenig for the Roosters. Luminous Damien Cook for the Dragons. Die cut Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Luminous Molly Olika R2 for Manly. Game breakers, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Bang, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous Mawaki Odawaika for the Titans. League heads, Joash Papali'i for the Eels. Luminous Ali Brigginshaw for the Broncos. Die cut Dream Buller for the Tigers. Luminous Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous Jerome Hughes for Storm. Mercury Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs, number 425. Luminous Casey McLean for the Panthers. I didn't realise these packs are the Ultra Pro sleeves because we buy them in the bulk of 1,000. I think they've actually got 125 in them. There's 8 of these packs in a bag of 1,000. Yeah, right. League heads, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Game breakers, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. And he's out through SCC, Lee. Ethan Sanders, Luminous for the Raiders. Bang, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Luminous, William Kennedy for the Sharks. League heads, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Luminous, Sotili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. League heads, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Luminous, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Die cut, Stefano Utikamanu for Storm. Luminous, Sean Russell for the Eels. Bang, Brian To'o for Panthers. Luminous, Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Game breakers, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous, Zali Hopkins for the Dragons. Die cut, Murray Talagi for the Cowboys. Luminous, Max Plath for the Dolphins. Die cut, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous, Matthew Tomoko for Raiders. Game breakers, Mawaki Fodawaka for the Titans. Luminous, Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. 416 sold out overnight, guys. So we'll be doing that one around midday tomorrow. That is an estimate. It should be, we should be there, but if not, it may be a little bit after. League heads, Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous, Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. It will be getting done tomorrow though. So, but if anything changes, I will make sure I update everyone. As in, if it's going to be a bit later, I'll try and let everyone know with plenty of time. Bang, Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Gladiators, Dane Gagai for the Knights. 473. Luminous, Blaze Talagi for Panthers. League heads, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous, Tom Starling for the Raiders. Game breakers, Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Will Tennessini for the Eels. League heads, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. Game breakers, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous, Tamika Upton for Broncos. Bang, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous, Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. League heads, Mawaki Fodawaika for the Titans. Luminous, Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Red Triumph in the team for Tigers. Got used to opening Ben Chaboyevich in the Luminous for Manly. League heads, Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Luminous Sanua Taruva for Tigers. League heads, Greg Marzu for the Knights. Luminous Dominic Young for the Knights. 3 packets left for our first box. Red Triumph, the Walsh backflip. James Tedesco, Luminous for Roosters. League heads, Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous, Jermaine McEwen for Knights. Bang, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous, Kurt Mann for Bulldogs. And that's the end of our first box. Not too bad of a run at the moment, guys. 4 starter packs and 1 box, and we have 2 predictors on the table already. Still plenty more to come, so let's get into box number 2. Bang, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Connolly Lumilu for Dolphins. League heads, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous, Samuel Stonestreet for Sharks. Game breakers, Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. Luminous, Tanila Paseka for Manly. Bang, Bailey Haywood for Bulldogs. Luminous Cameron Munster for Storm. Die cut Reece Walsh for Broncos. Luminous Sam Walker for the Roosters. League heads Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. Die cut Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. League heads Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous Ali Latua for the Warriors. Game breakers Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. Luminous Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. Game breakers Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. Bang Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. League heads Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Mitchell Moses for the Eels. And second box, we have another predictor. On a roll. Harry Grant, a Luminous for Storm. You'd be right if all the boxes could be like that. League heads, Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Luminous Ronaldo Mulatalo for the Sharks. Red Triumph Christian for the Dragons. Luminous Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Bang Lehehopawate for Manly. Luminous Asaya Papalihi for Panthers. Game breakers Dream Buller for the Tigers. Luminous Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Not doing the break yesterday actually enabled me to get on top of the unnumbered inserts, allowing Mum to keep scanning. I was able to list a lot of the unnumbered inserts, and some we hadn't listed yet, so there was some new pictures and that going up. League heads Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Alex Seafarth, Luminous for the Tigers. Mercury. For the Sharks, Renato Mulatalo, number 449. Luminous Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Game Breakers, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Blaze Talagi for Panthers. League Heads, Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Luminous Tom Starling for the Raiders. Curious to know what folders everyone's using. Are you using the League Heroes, the Luminous, or the new team folders, or a mixture? Game Breakers, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Are you collecting all of Luminous and then putting the Luminous in the Luminous album, putting the base set in the League Heroes album, and collecting the other team cards for the team album? There's a mix. Bang, Brian Kelly for the Titans. A Luminous Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Game Breakers, Kurt Catewell for the Warriors. Luminous Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. League Heads, Sam Walker for the Roosters. Luminous Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. League Heads, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Luminous Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Got Cronulla's team for all the Sharks insert, and then the League Heroes for the other inserts. Die cut Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Ben Trbojevic for Manly. So if you're collecting a full insert set, you're taking the Cronulla team out of that and putting it in the Sharks folder, or Game Breakers, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Bang, Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Luminous Sanua Taruva for Tigers. League Heads, Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Luminous Will Penasini for the Eels. Triumph Brian Top for Panthers. Luminous Bailey Simpson for the Eels. Game Breakers, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous, Jonah Pezzett for Storm. Gladiators, Herbie Farnworth for the Dolphins. Number 323. That bag is empty. Luminous, Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. League heads, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. League heads, Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Luminous, Brian Kelly for Titans. Die cut, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous, Sarah Togatuki for Tigers. I wonder if Paps will be collecting his cards this year, his last cards. He is a collector. I know he does prefer collecting the American sports cards, but they got into the NRL there for a while. Bang, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous, Wyatt for the Roosters. League heads, Liam Martin for Panthers. Luminous, Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Game Breakers, Chance Nicole Klokstad for the Warriors. Lindsay Smith, Luminous for Panthers. League heads, Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous, Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Game Breakers, Dylan Edwards for the Panthers. Luminous, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Die cut, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous, Tommy Turbo for Manly. League heads, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Mercury Will Penasini for the Eels, number 184. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Roger Tuivasa Sheck for Warriors. Triumph for the team in Warriors. Luminous Tolto Koala for Manly. Game Breakers Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. League Heads Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Payne Haas for the Broncos. Game Breakers Big Tino for the Titans. Luminous Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. League Heads Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Bang Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Stephen Crichton for the Roosters. Ben Chabovic in the die cut for Manly. Lation Albert Jones, Luminous for Warriors. League Heads Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous Reese Walsh for Broncos. Game Breakers Dane Gagai for the Knights. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. League Heads Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks. Bang Zach Labut for the Cowboys. Luminous Terrell May for the Tigers. League Heads Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. Die cut Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. Luminous Stefano Utokumanu for Storm. Game Breakers Julia Robinson for the Broncos. Luminous KO Weeks for the Raiders. Gladiators Stefano Utokumanu for Storm, number 392. Luminous Beau Fermor for the Titans. League Heads Jacob Little for the Dragons. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Die cut Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Alex Twal for the Tigers. Game Breakers Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Luminous Tyron Wishart for the Storm. Bang William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. League Heads Cohen Hess for Cowboys. Luminous Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Die cut Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Luminous Sam Verrills for Titans. League Heads Connolly for the Dolphins. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. Game Breakers Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous Junior Horlo for the Eels. Bang Casey McLean for Panthers. Luminous Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. 3 packets left in our third box. Red Triumph. Malaki Fotoaka for Titans. Luminous Ethan Strange for the Raiders. League Heads Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. The Luminous Lachlan Elias for Dragons. Bang Dylan Lucas for Knights. Luminous Billy Smith for the Roosters. Alright, box number 3 done and dusted. Box number 4. Game breakers, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous Mackenzie Wheel for the Cowboys. League heads, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous Patrick Carrigan for Broncos. Game breakers, Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Dane Gagai for the Knights. Bang Toltor Kuwala for Manly. Luminous Connor Watson for the Roosters. Gladiators, Luciano Alei-Alua for the Dragons. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. League heads, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Luminous Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Game breakers, Tegan Dimmick for the Bulldogs. Luminous Dylan Walker for the Eels. Mercury, Jake Trbojevic for Manly, number 228. Luminous Zahara Tamara for the Raiders. League heads, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Moses Leota, Luminous for Panthers. League heads, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous Brian To'o for Panthers. Bang Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous Luke Lawley for Tigers. Game breakers, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous Murray Talagi for Cowboys. League heads, Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous Chanel Harris Tavita for Warriors. Die cut Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Blake Brayley for Sharks. Bang Jalen De Groot for Titans. Luminous Murata Nakor for the Warriors. League heads, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous Tui Kamika for Storm. Game Breakers, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Jake Chaboyevich for Manly. Predictor, what do we got? Clive Churchill. Luminous Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. Red Triumph for Ponga in the Knights. Luminous Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. League heads, Will Penasini for the Eels. Trent LaRoe, Luminous for Storm. Game Breakers, Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous Jamal Fogarty for Manly. League heads, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Luminous AJ Brimson for the Titans. Die cut Griffin Neem for the Cowboys. Luminous Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous Adam Reynolds for Broncos. Red Triumph for the team in the Raiders. Luminous Hugo Savala for Roosters. League heads, Molly Olaka-Atu for Manly. Luminous for Storm. League heads, Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Bang, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous, Tamale for the Raiders. Die cut Keanu Kinney for Titans. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. Bang Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Luminous Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. League Heads James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Bang Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Game Breakers Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Luminous Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Die cut Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Luminous Philip Sammy for the Titans. League Heads Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Alright, box number 5. Alright, box number 5, let's do it. League Heads, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous Harry Grant for Storm. Game Breakers, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous Renato Molitalo for the Sharks. Oh, Gold Triumph. Luminous Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. League Heads Big Tino for Titans. Luminous Zach Labert for the Cowboys. Bang KO Weeks for Raiders. Luminous Loco Tonga for Dragons. Game breakers, Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Luminous, Luke Brooks for Manly. League heads for Storm. Luminous, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Gladiators, Robert Toya for the Roosters, number 260. Luminous, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Triumph, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous, John Bateman for the Cowboys. League heads, Clinton Gutherson for Dragons. Luminous, Georgia Hale for the Titans. Bang, Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Luminous, Ruben Garrick for Manly. League heads, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous, Mich Kenny for the Panthers. Mercury, Jordan Ricky for the Broncos, number 76. Luminous, Adden Fanua Blake for the Sharks. Game breakers, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous, Bailey Haywood for Bulldogs. Die cut, Sam Verrills for Titans. Luminous, Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. League heads, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous, Sam Walker for Roosters. Game breakers, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Josh Kerr for Dragons. Bang, Philip Semi for the Titans. Luminous, Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. Die cut, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous, Sarah Toga Tuki for Tigers. Bang, Tyron Wisher for Storm. Luminous Connolly for the Dolphins. The league heads, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Luminous Samuel Stonestreet for the Sharks. Game breakers, Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Tanila Paseka for Manly. Die cut, Bronson Sherry for Bulldogs. Luminous Bailey Simonson for Eels. League heads, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Game breakers, Lachlan Ilias for the Dragons. Luminous Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Game breakers, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous Brian Kelly for the Titans. Bang, Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous Tony Staggs for Broncos. Triumph, Manly in the red. Luminous Asaya Papalihi for Panthers. League heads, Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Luminous Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. Game breakers, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Luminous Alex Seafarth for Tigers. We got to 6 last packet for our 5th box. League heads, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Cameron Munster for the Storm. League heads, Samula Finu for the Tigers. Look like there were marks all over it. I think it's just a picture. Keon Colin Luminous for the Rabbitohs. It's like they've tried to touch up some of the pictures. Bang, Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous Ali Leitua for the Warriors. League heads, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. League head, game breakers, sorry. Brian To'o for Panthers. Jessica Surgis, Luminous for the Roosters. Die cut, Teague Wilton for the Sharks. Luminous Mitchell Moses for the Eels. And that finishes off another box. Let's just quickly tidy these up. There we go. Get you out of the way. And let's go. Box number 6. Game breakers, James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Luminous Samaima Torfa for the Raiders. Dolphins, Ray Stone in the die cut. Luminous Tamir Martin for the Warriors. League heads, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Bang Tamir Martin for Warriors. Luminous Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. Game breakers, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Luminous Damien Cook for Dragons. League heads, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Adam Dewey, Luminous for Tigers. Mercury, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders, number 18. Definitely down the lower end of the scale for that one. Dominic Young in the Luminous for Knights. Oh. Die cut, Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous Hamoli Olaka-Atu for Manly. League heads, KO Weeks for Raiders. Luminous Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Game breakers, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Mawaki Fodawaika for Titans. League heads, Brian To'o for Panthers. Luminous Ali Brigginshaw for the Broncos. Bang Joash Papali'i for Eels. Luminous Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. League heads Jerome Luai for Tigers. Luminous Jerome Hughes for Storm. Red Triumph for the team in the Eels. Luminous James Tedesco for the Roosters. League heads Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous Max Plath for the Dolphins. Right, here. That's why I was just moving them forward, up out of the way. Thank you. You'll be right. Thank you. Game breakers, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Luminous Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Bang Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. League heads Ryan Pappenhausen for the Storm. Luminous Jermaine McEwen for Knights. Alright, halfway through box number 6. Die cut Loco Tonga for the Dragons. Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for Cowboys. Triumph Connor Tracy for Bulldogs. Luminous Keezy Apps for the Tigers. Hey, Rocco. Game breakers Olivia Higgins for the Knights. Luminous Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Bang Isaac Tago for Panthers. Luminous Brighton Nakora for Sharks. League heads Sam Verrills. Love cards, been collecting since I was a kid. Don't really have much of a collection at the moment, but love opening, and I love going through the boxes and just, yeah. Kalen Ponga, Luminous for Knights. I think it'd be a bit hard to do this job if I didn't like cards. Game breakers Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Lycan King for the Dragons in the Luminous. League heads Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Luminous Isaac Tago for Panthers. Honestly, I have no idea. Yeah. I know there's bits and pieces in different places, as in some 7-Elevens have stuff, others don't. I don't believe Rebel have their stuff yet. I don't know, mate. Game Breakers, Billy Smith for the Roosters. We have them. You can order them. Alifiana Khan Piera for the Titans. Gladiators, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Number 581. Luminous Addo Carr for the Eels. League heads, Marata Nakor for the Warriors. Luminous Robert Toya for the Roosters. Die cut Philip Sammy for Titans. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. Game Breakers Payne Haas for Broncos. Luminous Chance Nicole Klokstad for the Warriors. Bang Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. League heads Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous William Kennedy for the Sharks. Fourth last packet in our sixth box. Die cut Brian To'o for Panthers. Luminous Satili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. League heads Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous Sean Russell for the Eels. Bang Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. Luminous Zali Hopkins for the Dragons. Game Breakers Emily Bass for the Tigers. Kurt Mann Luminous for the Bulldogs. Eels. Game Breakers, Beau Fermor for Titans. Luminous, Beau Fermor for Titans. League Heads, Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous, Jason Tormalolo for Cowboys. Game Breakers, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous, Alex Twal for Tigers. Die cut, Alex Twal for Tigers. Luminous, Tyron Wishart for Storm. Game Breakers, Joash for the Eels. Luminous, Kira Dibb for Cowboys. League Heads, Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Luminous, Braden Trindle for Sharks. Bang Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous, Sam Verrills for Titans. Bang Terrell May for the Tigers. Luminous, Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Reese Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous, Ethan Bullymore for Manly. League Heads, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Luminous, Jesse Colhoun for the Sharks. Bang Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Kurt Capewell for the Warriors. Die cut, Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. League Heads, Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Luminous, Dream Buller for the Tigers. Mr. Luminous. Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Bang Alifiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous, Xavier Coates for Storm. League Heads, John Bateman for Cowboys. Luminous, Herbie Farnworth for Dolphins. Mercury Sanua Taruva for the Tigers, number 240. Luminous Dylan Egan for the Dragons. Triumph Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Abby Church for the Eels. League Heads Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. Die cut KO Weeks for the Raiders. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. Bang Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous Felice Kafusi for Dolphins. Game Breakers, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous Ethan Strange for the Raiders. League Heads, Jareem Buller for Tigers. Luminous Lachlan Elias for Dragons. Game Breakers, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous Billy Smith for the Roosters. Die cut Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. League Heads Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous Lyshan Albert Jones for the Warriors. Game Breakers Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Luminous Reese Welsh for the Broncos. Bang Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. Tolatoa Koala Luminous for Manly. League Heads Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Triumph Molly Olaka-Atu for Manly. Luminous Payne Huss for Broncos. League Heads Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Game Breakers Jerome Luai for Tigers. Luminous Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Die cut Sam Walker for the Roosters. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Excuse me. League heads Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous Jaden Campbell for the Titans. 2 packets left for box number 7. Gladiators Junior Paulo for the Eels, number 336. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. League heads AJ Brinson for the Titans. Luminous KO Weeks for the Raiders. And before we get stuck into the next one, I'm going to drink some of this. So I did secretly forget about it. Alright, box number 8. League heads Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Billy Walters for the Broncos. Bang Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Die cut Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Jaden de Groot for Titans. League heads Tom Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Red Triumph Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Cassie Tohi Hiku for the Eels. Game Breakers Apposite Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous Marky Mark for the Roosters. League heads Mich Kenny for the Panthers. Luminous Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Bang Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Wade Egan Luminous for the Warriors. League heads Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Luminous Lachlan Galvin for Bulldogs. Game Breakers Hugo for the Roosters. Luminous Latu Finu for Tigers. Red Triumph, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous Ezra Mam for Broncos. League Heads, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Tom Dearden for the Cowboys. Die cut Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Jai Arrow Luminous for the Rabbitohs. Mercury Alefiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous Dylan Lucas for the Knights. League Heads, Lachlan Galvin for Bulldogs. Luminous Keanu Kinney for Titans. Game Breakers, KO Weeks for the Raiders. Luminous Kyle Flanagan for Dragons. Bang, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous for Bulldogs. League Heads, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Zach Lomax for the Eels. League Heads, Adam Fanua Blake for the Sharks. Luminous Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks. Luminous Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Gladiators, Jason Saab for Manly, number 523. Luminous Greg Marsu for the Knights. League Heads, Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Luminous Kuli Kefu for the Dolphins. Game Breakers, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Mackenzie Wheel, Luminous for Cowboys. Game Breakers, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Bang, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Appy Nichols for the Warriors. League Heads, Payne Huss for Broncos. Luminous Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. Die cut Jack Wyatt for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Bang Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Luminous Cameron McInnes for Sharks. Bang Daniel Tupou for Roosters. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for Eels. Game breakers Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Trent LaRoe for Storm. Die cut Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous Jamal Fogarty for Manly. Where are we down to? 5 packs left for box number 8. League heads James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Luminous AJ Brimson for the Titans. Game breakers Loco, for the Dragons. Marata Nakor, Luminous for the Warriors. Loco Pacific Tonga. It's probably not even close to how it's pronounced. League heads Cole Flanagan's for the Dragons. Luminous Moses Leota for Panthers. Die cut Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers Leher Bawate for Manly. Luminous Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Alright, well that's the end of that box, and we have just 4 more boxes out of the case to go, plus our hobby box to finish us off. So let's finish this and then we'll get stuck into box number 9. Alright. Game breakers White for the Roosters. Luminous Zach Labour for Cowboys. League heads Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous Loco for Dragons. Bang Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Luke Brooks for Manly. Game breakers Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. League heads Cody Nicarima for Dolphins. Luminous Xavier Savage for Raiders. League heads, Jaden Sewer for Dragons. Luminous, Kyle Flanagan for Dragons. Bang, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous, Angelina for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers, Alex Twal for the Tigers. Luminous, Zach Lomax for the Eels. League heads, Daryl May for the Tigers. Luminous, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Mercury, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Number 328. Jamie Humphreys, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. So Monday mornings now will be our top tipper, and to see if anyone has picked the score for that round. So Mondays will be exciting times here. League heads, Gahamat Shabarsky for Broncos. Luminous, Billy Walters for Broncos. I'm pretty sure with the pick the score giveaway, we will know if somebody has won by the time I get in on a Monday morning. Game Breakers, Trent LaRoe for Storm. Luminous, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. League heads, Alafiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous, Greg Marshew for Knights. Die cut, Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous, Kuli Kefu for Dolphins. League heads, Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Bang, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous, Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Luminous, Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. Triumph, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Luminous, Fanua Pole for the Tigers. League heads, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Georgia Hale, Luminous for Titans. Die cut, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Josh Kerr for the Dragons. Game breakers, Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Luminous, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Bang, Ali for the Warriors. Luminous, Mich Kenny for Panthers. League heads, Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous, and Fanua Blake for Sharks. Game breakers, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Triumph in the Sharks. Luminous, Tyson Frizzell for Knights. Die cut, Jacob Saibiti for the Knights. Luminous, Jason de Groot for Titans. League heads, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Game breakers, Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Cassie Ishiku. Bang, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Gladiators, Terrell May for the Tigers, number 379. Luminous, Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. League heads, Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous, Wade Egan for the Warriors. We got the fifth last packet in box number 9. Die cut, Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Latu Fanu, Luminous for the Tigers. Game breakers, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Luminous, Ezra Mam for Broncos. Bang, Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Luminous, Tommy Dearden for Cowboys. League heads, Ronaldo Molitalo for the Sharks. Jai Arrow, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. A die cut, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Keanu Kinney, Luminous for the Titans. Box number 10. This is our third last box out of the case. We've got our other two plus our hobby box left to go in this one, guys. Still a few to go, still plenty of chances to hit some of those big ones. Bang, Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Gehamat Shabarsky for Broncos. League Heads Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Bang Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Die cut Jake Averillo for the Dolphins. Brian Pappenhausen Luminous for Storm. Game Breakers Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Luminous Keezy Apps for the Tigers. Triumph in the Bulldogs for the team. Luminous Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. League Heads Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. League Heads Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Jason Saab for Manly. Die cut Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous King Togia for Dragons. League Heads Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous Isaac Tago for Panthers. Game Breakers Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Luminous Alafiana Khan Piera for Titans. Bang Roger Tuivasa Sheck for Warriors. Luminous Addo Carr for the Eels. League heads, Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins. Luminous, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Game breakers, Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Luminous, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. And predictor, Luminous, Samaima Torfa for the Raiders. Game breakers, Ben Trbojevic for Manly. Luminous, Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Game breakers, Mitchell Moses for Eels. Luminous, Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. League heads, Sam Walker for the Roosters. Luminous, Hammer for the Dolphins. Triumph, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous, Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. League head, Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Luminous, Nelson Asofa Solomona for Storm. Game breakers, Lindsay Smith for the Panthers. Luminous, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. League heads, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous, Dean Mariner for Broncos. Bang, Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. League heads, Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous, Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Die cut, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Die cut, Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Luminous, Liam Martin for Panthers. League heads, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Scott Drinkwater, Luminous for the Cowboys. League heads, Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous, Lehe Hopawate for Manly. Bang, Greg Marshew for the Knights. Luminous, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Gladiators, Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. Number 148. Luminous, James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Shaylee Bent for the Titans. Luminous, Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Mercury, Isaac Tago for the Panthers. Number 410. Luminous, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Bang, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous, Big Tino for the Titans. Excuse me. Last packet for the box. League heads, Moses Leota for Panthers. Luminous, Kale Hero for Sharks. Alright, another one down. We don't need to put these in the box. We can just move them out of the way. Alright, let's go. Next. Box number 11. Once again, this is the second last box for the case. And then we have the hobby after that. League heads, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous, James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Bang, Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. Luminous, Hudson Young for the Raiders. League heads, Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous, Leka Halasima for the Warriors. Matt Shabarsky in the bang for Broncos. Luminous, Yasmin Clydesdale for Knights. League heads, Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Luminous, Val Holmes for the Dragons. Die cut, Riley Smith for the Eels. Luminous, Big Tino for the Titans. League heads, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Jamie Chapman, Luminous for the Titans. Game Breakers, Samaima Torfa for the Raiders. Jerome Luai, Luminous for Tigers. Game Breakers, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Kale Iro for Sharks. Red Triumph, Katoni Stags for Broncos. Luminous, Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. League Heads, Stefano Utkamanu for Storm. Luminous, Jason Saab for Manly. Bang, Renato Mulatalo for the Sharks. Luminous, Ryan Pappenhausen for the Storm. Game Breakers, Dylan Egan for the Dragons. Luminous, Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. League Heads, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous, Gehamat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Predictor, Luminous, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Die cut, Charlie Staines for the Tigers. Luminous, Sire Rennie for the Eels. League Heads, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous, Luca Moretti for the Eels. Game Breakers, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Gladiators, Mawaki Fodawaika for the Titans, number 408. Isaiah Yo, Luminous for Panthers. League Heads, Jack Williams for the Eels. Luminous, Dylan Brown for the Knights. Bang, Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Luminous, Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Die cut Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Luminous Lehe for Manly. Bang Jackson Purdue for Cowboys. Luminous Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Look out, guys. I just noticed that every single larger hit that we've opened so far, there's a women's NRL base card sitting on top of it. The women hiding the big hits. League heads Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Game breakers Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Whoops. Isabel Kelly, Luminous for Roosters. League heads Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Luminous Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. League heads Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous Nico Hines for the Sharks. Die cut James Schiller for the Knights. Luminous Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Fifth last packet in box number 11. Game breakers Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Cohen Hess Luminous for the Cowboys. Bang Greg Marshue for the Knights. Luminous Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. League heads Alex Twile for Tigers. Luminous Liam Martin for Panthers. Mercury Ali Leitua for the Warriors, number 28. Luminous Drink Water for the Cowboys. Is that right now? Lucky last for the box. In red Triumph for the Tigers in the team. Luminous the Hammer for Dolphins. Alright, another box done and dusted. Let's go. Our last one for the case, box number 12. Don't forget we do still have our hobby box to go at the end. lucky last in the case. Let's see how we go. Bang, Cody Nikorima for Dolphins. Luminous Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Luminous White for the Roosters. League Heads, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Luminous Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Die cut Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Luminous Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Bang, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous Philip Semi for Titans. League Head, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Luminous Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Bang, Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Xavier Willison, Luminous for Broncos. League Heads, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Tommy Turbo for Manly. Game Breakers, Alefiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous Stephen Crichton for Bulldogs. Die cut Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Mitchell, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. League Heads, Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous Ray Stone for Dolphins. Red Triumph, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Roger Tulvasa Sheck for the Warriors. League Heads, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Luminous Tiana Penatani Gray for Sharks. Bang, Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Luminous Terrell May for the Tigers. Game Breakers, Mahalia Murphy for the Eels. Luminous Samula Fainu for the Tigers. League Heads, Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Stefano Uchikamanu for Storm. An instant win for today. Well, actually, we could hit another one in the hobby box, so we may have two. Sean Kepi, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. And we did have the potential for a third with the starter packs as well, if we were lucky enough. But we did hit a predictor in just 4 starter packs, so that's definitely not a bad thing. League heads, Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. Luminous Savala for the Roosters. We're up to 8 of our big hits. Hopefully we can keep building. Game breakers, Cooley Kefu for the Dolphins. Luminous for the Storm. Bang, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous, Brendan Smith for Rabbitohs. League heads, Ethan Bullymore for Manly. Luminous Tamale for Raiders. Gladiators, Nathan Cleary for Panthers, number 385. Emma Veron, Luminous for Sharks. Red Triumph, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Mercury, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs, number 19. Luminous, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Game breakers, Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. Luminous, Connor Watson for the Roosters. League heads, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Luminous, Zahara Tamara for the Raiders. Game breakers, Tanila Paseka for Manly. Luminous, Brian To'o for Panthers. Bang, Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Luke Lawlilly for the Tigers. League heads, Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous, Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Die cut, Dallin Latine Zalesniak for the Warriors. Luminous, Dane Gagai for the Knights. What are we down to? 5 packets left for our case. Game breakers, Liam Martin for Panthers. Luminous, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. The die cut hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. League heads, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous, Tui Kamikimika for Storm. Game breakers, Adam Fanua Blake for the Sharks. Luminous, Jake Trebojevic for Manly. League heads, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Alright guys, that was the end of the case, leaving just our hobby box to go. Alright, first up, Luminous Tiana Penatani Grey, number 514. Gold die cut, Xavier Willison for the Broncos, number 222. Daryl May in the Luminous, number 93 for Tigers. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels, number 295. Matthew Eisenhuth for the Panthers in the etched, 107. Luminous Tyron Wishart for Storm, number 496. Etched, Mr. Burns, 126. Luminous Kira Dibb for the Cowboys, number 529. Luminous Braden Trindle for the Sharks, number 8. Nice low one. And gold die cut, Riley Smith for the Eels. Another low one, number 17. go. Sam Verrills in the Luminous for Titans, number 28. Luminous Bradman Best for the night, number 86. Gold die cut Wade Egan for the Warriors, number 228. Basically halfway through our hobby box now. Luminous Junior Paulo, number 405. Luminous Stefano Utkamanu for Storm, number 581. And our gold gladiator, number 36. Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Luminous KO Weeks for the Raiders, number 179. Loco Pacifici Tonga gold die cut, number 203 for the Dragons. Luminous Bo Fermor for the Titans, number 579. And Adam Reynolds in the etched for Broncos, number 15. Luminous Jason Taumalolo for the Cowboys, number 499. Gold die cut Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys, number 243. Fifth last packet for the break. Luminous Alex Twal for the Tigers, number 623. And our Mercury Sterling, number 8. Max Plath for the Dolphins. Up there in the corner. Luminous Tommy Turbo for Manly, number 606. Latrell Mitchell in the Luminous, number 298 for the Rabbitohs. And we hit another predictor, and rather than grabbing a base card, we're just going to do that. Because we've only got a couple of packets left. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs, number 237. And gold die cut for the Roosters, Sam Walker, number 210. And lucky last packet for the break. Roger Tuivasa Sheck Luminous for the Warriors, number 19. And Playmakers, number 78 for the Storm. Alright, let's go through these predictors. We'll start with the one we just hit in the hobby first. Alright. Number 50. Dally M. Isaiah Yo for Panthers. That's the platinum version, guys. Just a reminder. Hobby is platinum. Alright. Next up, we got this out of the normal. We have our instant win for the Warriors, Kevin Follas. Next up, Dally M Predictor, gold 111. Chance Nicole Clockstad for the Warriors. 2 out of 3 for Warriors so far. Dally M Predictor, number 249. Dream Buller for the Tigers. Once again, that's the gold out of the standard. And our gold triumph. It is number 79 out of 80 for the team in Dragons. What else? Clive Churchill, number 145 for the Sharks. Dally M, number 83. Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Still 2 to go, guys. Wasn't a bad break at all. And our a premiership predictor, number 69. Manly. And our last hit for the break. What is it? We have another premiership predictor, number 120. Remembering this did come out of the starter packs, the 4 starter packs. We managed to hit this one. Number 120 for the Tigers. Alright guys, that is it for this one. Break 416 tomorrow. Hope to be kicking off lunchtime, midday. if not, we'll update that, but it should be very close, if not on time. I'll be very surprised if we're not on time with that one. And plenty of spots left, guys. We've got 2 in break 417, and then I think there's 7 in each of 418 and 419. So plenty of options left with 2 more already listed as coming soon. So remember to add them to your wish list so you get a notification when they are live. And team hits will be up soon on Facebook, guys. So keep an eye out. Thank you to everyone for being a part of it, and we'll see you in the next one. That's it.